My name is Pauline Harrington and we are here at Fintech Week London with Jill from Nium. Jill, how are you doing today?
I am good, thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Why don't you give yourself a bit of an intro as to yourself and also to Nium as well?
Sure, thanks so much. So I'm Jill Docherty. I support customer success at Nium. So basically, what's customer success? It's really about looking after the commercial partnerships with our existing customers. And a little bit about Nium. So who is Nium? We're a fintech. So fairly well established, Series D, about 1,000 employees. Our revenue was about 80 million last year, and looking to double again this year. So it's all things growth at Nium. And we basically we're an infrastructure provider that enables cross-border payments. We have multiple use cases, but our core proposition is really about cross-border payments or payments across borders.
Fantastic. And like you said, I know you've had some fantastic success at the moment. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how that's going for you.
We have indeed. So we've been in the UK for a number of years, but we're really now focused on European expansion. So what are we doing in terms of that European expansion? We are opening an office in Amsterdam, so that will probably happen second half of this year. Super exciting. And what happens when you open an office? You employ a ton more people, which is really great as well. So because revenues are growing, that is really the enabler for us to recruit additional resources. So we're going to have people placed all over Europe. We're going to have presence in Germany, in France, obviously enabling and upskilling a number of resources in that Amsterdam office. And we're supporting more use cases. So we really have two really established use cases. Our travel B2B use case, where we facilitate payments from an online travel agency to an airline or a hotel. And we do that through a virtual card solution that enables a really reduced fraud and significantly enhanced data. And then our cross-border payouts use case is really well established. We support various fintechs and financial institutions with that. But we're now turning our attention to payroll. So really about supporting companies that need to be able to pay people cross-border. And when we have a lot of those use cases, and for those particular payment types, obviously cost is really important, real time, it needs to happen simultaneously, and certainty, like we need to know those people are definitely going to get paid. So we're doing a lot in the payroll space at the moment. So that's our journey.
So it's quite a challenging market at the moment. How are you finding navigating through that with the growth? Is it having effect on anything, or are you just powering on through it and business as normal?
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is that we really are well capitalized as a business. We've been really fortunate, and we're in a very fortunate position to have a significant amount of funding to hand, which really is enabling that growth, and that growth that I spoke of previously across Europe. I think also what we're seeing, and I see in my day-to-day, is a lot of our existing customers are looking to Nium to help them expand across new corridors and currencies. So our existing customers are growing significantly month on month, quarter on quarter, year on year. So that's really fueling a lot of the growth. So it's kind of twofold. It's really existing customer growth. And then as we look to expand across Europe, we have the means, we have the capitalization to be able to do that, to attract new customers, new partners, and to kind of continue that circle.
Fantastic. And I'd love to talk to you a little bit about embedded finance, because obviously you were here speaking on a panel not too long ago about that. How are you finding sort of the embedded finance sector in fintech at the moment? Because I feel like it's been quite a buzzword trend for a good couple of years now. What's the landscape looking at like right now?
It certainly is. I think there has been a lot discussed about embedded finance. I think it has been around for a while. I think it's starting to evolve as well. That narrative is starting to evolve as we see kind of open banking as part of our regulatory regime in the UK. And also AI, machine learning, becoming part of that dialogue. But I guess from my perspective and Nium's perspective, we don't see it as a zero-sum game. It's not about winners and losers. And I think sometimes people think, oh, the one is going to replace the other. And maybe that was the dialogue a couple of years ago. Nium really supports FIs, financial institutions, and fintech. And I think there's a place for both incumbents to provide cross-border payment solutions and fintechs like ourselves to enable those payments. Not every time is cost and transparency and time really important in a payment. Not every corridor needs to be real time. And also with certain ACH providers, there isn't necessarily interoperability. So Nium may be able to facilitate the payments on one particular currency or corridor, but it may not be able to provide that exact same service in another. So it's not an and, it's an or. It's kind of this piece where we can all partner in this ecosystem together.
Yeah, fantastic. And are there any sort of specific challenges within embedded finance at the moment that is sort of teetering adoption a little bit?
I think there is still a lot of work to be done around compliance and operational resilience. I think as we introduce more partners into any ecosystem, it becomes quite fragmented, and making sure each of those partners has the relevant operational resilience to be able to provide the service. Or if they can't, then there is a number of other partners that can offer some type of redundancy solution in the event that there were to be failure. But you want to remove the single points of failure. So I think from my experience, redundancy partners is something that will become more widely accepted, and not having a single partner for a single corridor, currency, or use case is probably what's going to kind of continue to evolve.
Yeah, fantastic. And where do you think the future's headed for embedded finance?
For embedded finance, I think we're just at the beginning. I think we've seen other parts of the world amplify that growth more quickly. But I think it is about that idea that we can work with others. I think FIs are working with fintechs more and more. And I think we'll see that evolution as open banking really starts to ramp in Europe and more particularly in the UK.
Fantastic. I'd love to take a second to talk to you about diversity within fintech. I know it's something that's very near and dear to yourself. Why is it important that we have this diversity of thought within the industry?
Well, I think you've just said it, right? Like, why is diversity important? Because it is about that kind of top tier piece where it's about diversity of thought. If we have many people sitting around the table that look the same and come from the same experience base and have the same kind of cultural experiences, or have had the same cultural experiences growing up, they're not going to be able to offer alternative perspectives and insight. And then we get this kind of group think happening. So I think, unfortunately, in fintech, we've not seen as much gender diversity as one would like to. We do, unfortunately, see some serious biases. But I think at Nium, we're really committed to our journey, and we're at the beginning of the journey. We've recently launched Women at Nium, and we are really considering the way that we hire women and the roles that we bring women into. Not just ensuring that they're not just kind of the cross-functional roles in finance or HR and marketing, but they're actually embedding that gender diversity within the core commercial roles, like a role that I do at Nium and some of my colleagues do. So I think it's an important piece. I want to leave a legacy. I'd like to see things better than when I joined. And certainly we've done a lot of great strides in financial services. We just need to keep our eye on the goal within fintech to ensure that we don't make those same mistakes. And we really do enable gender, and we enable it in the right way in terms of the way we promote and the way that we recruit people within the fintech community.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be here.